Hi guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Destiny, and Zay, he is not going to be in this video today because I'm going to be talking about my personal experiences that I had in life. Well, a personal experience that I had in life, a subject that people are so scared to talk about, but I know somebody out there might see my video and it might be of use to them. So I want to share my story to help others and just get it out there. You know, it took years and years for me to get over it, to heal. It was a journey. So I want to share my experience with you guys and just let you in on, my life and my experiences. I just wanted to begin by saying rape is never okay, and it is not right, and it's something that should not happen, but does. And seldomly girls don't speak about it, they don't talk about it, they just bottle it all up inside. And as women, we need to band together because we are a community. This happens to more women than you think. I bet if it hasn't happened to you, you know somebody that it has happened to. And with that is way, way, way too many people that it's happened to. So I wanted to give my experience to you guys just in case it helps any girl out there. Now, back when this started, how mine actually happened, I was 12 years old. So I would have been in maybe 5th, 6th grade when this happened. Basically, just a backstory, kind of to give you guys like a backstory of how this happened. Well, my mom has 5 kids now, but at the time she had 4 kids, right? 3 different fathers out of those 4 kids. Now, the oldest 2, they shared the same dad. My older brother Caleb and my older sister Maddie. Me and Maddie are literally just a year apart. And then my younger brother James, okay? So at this time, we were actually, my mom having 4 kids back then and not ever going to, she never finished high school. So having 4 kids was hard for her, constantly, working and, trying to make ends meet every week. So we lived with my grandma. So we all shared a room in her basement. Well, me and my sister and my mom shared the basement. There was this actual room in the basement, and that was my mom's room, and then it was like the whole, what would be technically a living room in your basement. The rest of the basement, me and my sister split. So at this time, my mom wasn't dating. It had been years that had gone by that my mom hadn't, had a boyfriend or any of that. So we shared the basement, right? And then my older brother and little brother shared a room upstairs. Now, my older brother was really getting into trouble at this time and getting into, drugs and stuff like that. So he was constantly in and out of, what's juvie, because he was under 18. So he was in juvie, in and out of juvie at this time. So he was gone most of that part of my life. Now, my mom, it was actually on Valentine's Day. My mom's aunt had actually set her up with this, it's kind of connected, the people, but so my aunt set up my mom with her daughter's boyfriend's brother. Okay. Now, my mom went down there for Valentine's Day, and, they introduced her to this guy. She was down there for that whole weekend. So it was like a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then, she left Friday. She was down there Friday night, Saturday night, came back Sunday. Okay. When she came back Sunday, obviously she was talking about him and decided, I guess, she liked him and she was going to continue to go out with him. So a week had went by, and to this day, this is my mom's probably biggest regret. A week later after meeting him, she moves him in the following weekend. Yeah. Any mother, in the right state of mind would never do that so quickly. You would want to get to know that person and then move them in. But at the time, my mom was just so desperate to finally have someone that she just put her all into it, right? So, as time went by, it was probably, he had been living there for probably about, I'd say 4-5 months before things started happening. Now, during this time, my mom and him didn't really have like the best relationship. Obviously, because they didn't know each other that well. But there was a lot of fighting going on between those, 4 months from when the time he moved in, those 4 months. And when the fighting would happen, I would be so scared because, of course, they'd be screaming and yelling at each other, slamming doors. And it was just scary for someone. I was 12 at the time. It was scary. So it was just a bad relationship from the get-go. So it had been 4 or 5 months later. I'm laying in bed one night. And I'm going to give you guys, the details because I want to be open about this and just get it off my chest. I was laying in bed one night and my mom's boyfriend came and got in bed with me. Now, at the time, me and my sister both had twin sizes bed, but we kind of kept them very separate for each other. It's like we split the basement in half pretty much. I had one half, she had the other. He came and got in bed with me, and at first it freaked me out because I'm like, oh, nobody sleeps with me, who just got in bed with me? And I saw it was him, and I was just kind of like, okay, this is weird. He just laid there for a couple hours. And then got up and went back in my mom's room. While that happened, I was just kind of like, maybe he had been drinking, because also he did have an alcohol problem too. So I was like, maybe he had been drinking, and I tried to make up anything in my head to kind of make it make sense, because I was just like, okay, he just got in bed. I don't know. I really don't know. Okay. So when all this was going on, he always tried to, get close with me, always take me places with him if it's going to the gas station, this or that. But at the same time, he would do things like ground me. I wouldn't be able to go out with my friends because I would be quote unquote grounded for something I didn't do. But he would just make something up, tell my mom, and I'd have to stay home. I used to hate when he would ground me because it would never make sense. He would tell my mom I did this or I did that, and I never did any of it, or I said this or that, and constantly be grounded. And at the time, I didn't understand why he was doing that, but he actually one day had sat down and told my mom that he sat down one day and he actually told my mom that he wanted to adopt me. When my mom heard that, she was, of course, overwhelmed. My dad wasn't in my life at this point in time. He just wasn't. We had no relationship whatsoever. So he basically wanted to take on that father role with me, and my mom brought it up to me, and I just kind of shrugged it off. Didn't really give it no mind, okay? You have to be one sick man to tell the woman you're dating's child that you will stop doing things to her if you let her adopt you. Well, if you let him adopt you. I was so hurt when it first happened. He I remember he would do things. My sister was a little bit older than, she was a year older than me, but basically she was 2 grades ahead of me because where her birthday falls, though. Her and her friends were at that age where they were drinking, and he would buy us, alcohol and drink with us, and I hated it. I hated it because I knew. Now, after that first night, it was probably after that first night when he had gotten in bed with me, I'd say it was probably 2 nights later. I was laying in bed, and again, late at night, and I feel somebody come get in the bed with me. Well, when he got in the bed with me, I felt him lift up the blanket and kind of crawl down. And guys, this is hard for me to talk about. The last time I actually told this whole entire story, it was when I was sitting in front of the people at Children's Division explaining my case so they could bring it to court. So that's the last time I actually came out and said everything. So he had gotten to bed with me, and basically he went down on me 2 nights after the first night that he had just gotten in bed and laid there and got up. So the second time, 2 days later, he had actually got in bed with me and went down on me, and I was utterly confused. One, I'm 12 years old. I haven't even had my first kiss yet. Two, what is this? Like, what is happening? What's going on? And it just felt so weird, and I was really, really grossed out. Well, obviously, I just kind of pushed him. I'm like, what are you doing? And he's just like, relax. And I just kind of said, I tried to push him off me, and he just kind of pushed my arms down. And I remember it bright as day. He literally got up close and into my ear, and he said, if you tell anyone, I will kill your family. And at that moment, I knew that I could just never look at him the same way. I could never probably look at my mom the same way. I just knew, like, I was confused. I was 12. What is happening? What is this? What's going on? Is this normal? At 12, you don't know. I mean, yeah, at 12 years old, you've had, like, maybe the bees and the birds talk in class. But my mom, with her work and having 4 kids, just my grandparents basically took care of us. So my grandparents, never really sat down and gave us that talk. So we would just, in school, the girls would talk and about this, and that. So those were the only things that I was really exposed to about this type of thing. And none of these things happened to my friends, so it's not like they ever told me, anything or what this is. Well, it was weird. That time was really, really weird. It was the first time that he did something, and it broke my world. Everything was different from there on out. Now, what happens next is my mom actually comes home from work one day, and she tells us that she is pregnant. 5th kid. Now that makes 4 different baby daddies. She is pregnant with this man's kid. Now, I mean, he had literally, when she found out she was pregnant, he literally that day got down and basically proposed to my mom. They were supposed to get married. I can't remember. I think he bought her a ring. If he did, it was like a really cheap ring. I can't really remember that part, so I just try to shove it out of my mind. I don't like to think about their relationship, but I'm pretty sure when she had came home that day and told us that she was pregnant, he wanted to marry her. He literally popped the question. So, of course, she wants to get married too. She thinks everything's great. Now, also at this time, let me remind you that when he came along, that week, the first week that he had moved in with us, my mom wanted to, this is from what I remember, and you know, my siblings as well, but my mom was never, like I said, our grandparents took care of us. My mom wasn't really, she was a mom, but she wasn't really there, so our grandparents took care of us. But when he came into the picture, she started making dinner and acting like a mom, doing mom type things. And that always really bothered me, because it took a man coming into your life for you to step up and be a mother. And that always bothered me. And the fact that you chose this man and he did this to me always bothered me. So yeah. So she's pregnant with his kid. You know, they're still constantly fighting, you know, all the time. And, you know, it's like after that second time, it's like, it was probably a week later when he had came back. It was always at night, late at night after everyone, you know, was all asleep. The third time, something happened, it was literally probably with my mom or something, but I had fell asleep in her bed. I fell asleep in my mom's bed. And with my mom asleep next to me, he literally got into bed and started basically touching me with his fingers and tried to penetrate me that night next to my mother. In my head, I was thinking, there's no way she doesn't know about this. There's no way she doesn't know. Like, this happened in her bed right next to her. And she didn't even know. When I say he tried to penetrate me, obviously I was a virgin, and as soon as I felt it, because this time he just gotten, you know, he had did that, because this time he had got into the bed, put his fingers inside me a little bit, and then he had then began trying to penetrate, but did not. Now that happened, again, like I said, right next to my mother. After that night, obviously I was in my head thinking, like, there's no way she doesn't know. You know, I hated her. I hated her. And then to make this story worse, this is where me and my mom butt heads with this story. There were times that my mom would sit there and come up to me. It happened about probably two times I can remember. I want to say three, but two times for sure that I can remember. She had, you know, after school or something, she had walked up to me and pulled me aside and said, "Hey, is he doing anything to you?" And, you know, and I would always say no, because like I said, he would threaten to kill my family. Now, after my little sister was born, he started, you know, when my little sister was born, even though her dad was an evil man, she was a baby and she was my sister. So at the end of the day, I had so much love for her. I mean, babies are just so cute. So I didn't have no ill feelings or hatred towards the baby. I actually was obsessed with her. We played all the time. You know, I changed her diapers, took care of her. So then the threats would be, if you ever tell anybody, I'm going to kill your sister. There was a time I thought I had got enough courage up inside me to go upstairs and tell my grandparents. Well, that day that I thought I had that courage, he ripped me back. He grabbed my shoulder, ripped me back, put a gun to my baby sister's head and said, "If you say anything, I will shoot her." So I couldn't. Because why does this baby deserve to die because of this? Now, obviously, it's just sad what people will do, what they'll say to try and always get their way. It's just pathetic. Now, the molestation and the rape went on from the time I was 12 till almost, no, it went on until the time I was 12. From the time I was 12 till 15. So for 3 years that went on. It happened in so many different places. It happened at my aunt's house. And what's crazy is, what is so crazy about this story, that sometimes he would do things in front of other people. And I would just, when he would do things in front of other people, I would just be like crying with my eyes, like pleading for help. Like, somebody please notice. Somebody please notice. We were at my aunt's house, and there was actually, I can't remember what we were doing down there, but there was actually 5 people sleeping in the living room. I was sleeping, I think, either on the floor or the couch. On the floor, yeah, because my cousin Leah, I think, was sleeping on the, because I was sleeping on the floor at my aunt's house, and there was literally 5 people in the living room sleeping as well. Him and my mom were sleeping in my cousin's bedroom. Well, again, in the middle of the night, he comes creeping in the living room with 5 other people in there and begins trying to do stuff to me. And he actually raped me with 5 other people in the living room. It literally gets to a point where you just stop fighting. It gets to a point where you stop fighting. You stop fighting it. It got to the point where I stopped fighting it because no matter how hard I tried to scream, how much I fought him off, nobody would ever know. Nobody would ever find out. It would just continue to happen. So to save myself from getting hit or choked out, I would just stop fighting. Five other people in the living room. In my head, when all this is going on, I'm just thinking, why doesn't anybody know? Why can't anybody see the signs? I mean, the signs were there. They were there. Literally, things going on almost every, if not every week, every other week until the time I was 15 years old. The signs were there. I mean, there'd be times, we'd all be sitting in the living room or something watching TV, and he would put his hand on my leg, on my thigh, in front of everybody, and nobody ever said anything. I don't think anybody noticed. They didn't. The amount of audacity that he had to do the things he did to me in the places, it just didn't matter. It didn't matter if my mom was sleeping next to us. It didn't matter if, there was 5 people in the living room. It started off just literally him getting in the bed and laying there next to me, to slowly building things up, and then he finally got there. He finally raped me. Now, the thing is, when all this happened to me, I was getting emotionally abused by him. told I was ugly, nobody cares about me, I'm pathetic, I'm nothing, I'm worthless, all of that. So I'm not only getting raped, I'm being emotionally and physically abused as well. It was a traumatic part of my life. And it's not fair. It's not fair that this happened to me. It is not fair. No. It was like, it didn't matter if I even tried to scream. There was literally nights I can remember where I would try and scream and he would literally just cover my mouth and hold it shut. Or he would try and choke me so I can't breathe, I can't talk. Literally, I know me and my sister had moved the basement around, so this was actually when our twin beds were side by side, probably maybe a good 5 foot apart. There was a night that he had actually got into bed with me and attempted to put himself inside me, and I screamed. And he just got up super quick. He literally jumped out of my bed and was like, what's going on? Because the way our basement was set up was, this is my mom's room right here, and literally immediately when you walk out the door, it's like me and my sister's room, literally. And her bed was right next to me. The night that I screamed, her bed was right next to mine. I screamed, and he just jumped out of bed to make it look like, oh, what's wrong? You having a nightmare? My sister didn't even wake up. Nobody heard me. Nobody heard me. And it continued, and it went on for 3 years. For 3 years, I was going through this, being told that I'm worthless for 3 years, and getting raped for 3 years of my life, and nobody noticing a thing. Nobody noticing a thing. Nobody even wondering. Now, when I asked my mom about why she asked me, if he was doing anything to me, she says that she had overheard a conversation, because she overheard a conversation about how he might have done something to his family thought that he might have done something to his brother when they were like, I don't know, in their 20s or teenagers or something. That's why she asked me. And I said no, because I thought I was protecting my family by saying no. There were so many times when I just wanted to tell somebody, and then I would think about that day that he put a gun to my little sister's head. And I think about the fights that him and my mom got into, and he was full of anger. The fights were so bad, screaming, breaking stuff. It was so bad. I was literally scared of him. I was scared of him. Okay? I was seriously scared of him and what he could do to my family. Now, the last night over the years we had moved into different houses. Obviously, when my mom started acting like a mom, we, moved into a house, and then we moved out to another house in a different city. And at the last house, me and my sister shared a room, and then my brothers shared a room, because it was a 3-bedroom house. So me and my sister shared a room, and my 2 brothers shared a room. And then the baby obviously was still a baby, so she slept in my mom's room. And I just remember one night, me and my sister, we're sisters, so we argue. We're so close in age, but in different grades, have different friends. So we would argue. And, I would be so mad because I hated sharing a room with her. I really hated sharing a room with my sister. So there would be nights that I would actually go and sleep in my little brother's room, because my little cerebral palsy. So there would be a lot of the times he would basically he lived with my grandma most of the time, because that school district at my grandma's house, they had better programs for people like him. So that night he was at my grandma's. So I didn't want to sleep in my sister's room at all. Well, and I didn't want to sleep in our room at all, because I think my sister had done something to get on my nerves that day, or vice versa. I can't remember what, but I had slept in my brother's room. And some night he came creeping into my brother's room. He got in bed with me, and I told him, I said, get off me, leave me alone. And sometimes, like, when I would say, get off me, leave me alone, I don't know what it was about that night that was different, because usually he would just put his hand over my mouth and just continue, or hit me or something. Well, when I said that, he just got up and walked out that night. He had went back to my mom's room. Well, I'm laying there, and then after a couple minutes goes by, my sister walks in the room, and she gets in bed with me, and she put her arm, I remember her putting her arm over me. And I was thinking in my head, I was thinking in my head, finally somebody knows. Finally somebody knows, was what I was thinking. Somebody finally found out. Somebody finally heard my plea for help. After 3 years. 3 years. Somebody finally heard. And I was scared. I was scared to death of what was going to happen. I was scared to death of what was going to happen to my sister, to my family. Somebody found out. Oh my God. I was scared to death of what was going to happen next. All the threats, the constant threats, the constant abuse. Somebody had found out. And when that should have gave me hope, it scared the living daylight out of me that somebody found out, and now he's going to hurt us all, is how I felt. So the next morning, I got up. My mom took us to school. Me and Maddie didn't even look at each other that morning. Didn't talk to each other, didn't look at each other, nothing. I don't know if she just needed time to process it, was scared herself. I don't know. I don't know. But I was a cheerleader at the time. I remember this night like it was yesterday. I was cheering at the basketball game, and just when we were getting ready, getting all of our stuff and heading over to the gym before the game, I get a call from Maddie. And she asked me, she said on the phone, did he do anything to you? Did he do anything to you? I said, no, leave me alone. No, leave me alone. And I hung up the phone. I hung up the phone out of fear for my life. I hung up the phone out of fear for my life that something bad was going to happen because somebody finally found out after 3 years. And so we're getting ready. We're, heading into the basketball game. The game starts. We're cheering. My aunt walks into the game, tells my coach there's a family emergency, and pulls me out. And I remember it was my aunt in the car and my sister. And they were both crying. And I remember when I saw my mom, she had asked me again, if he did anything to you, you will never have to see him again. We were all at my grandma's house when she asked this. And I couldn't even say anything. I just started crying. And my aunt was living at my grandma's house at this time, and I had ran into my aunt's room and sat down on the floor, and I was just crying. And my mom came in there and sat next to me. But to be honest, I didn't even want her next to me. I wanted nothing to do with her. Nothing. And they called the police. And he's a felon, had guns in the house, so the police were able to lock him up for that. It was enough to hold him until court. And the worst part during that experience, after it all came out, was they took me to this children's division place where, kids go in this room and they record it. There's like a room with obviously a mirror, but it's not actually a mirror. It's just a room where they can hear what you're saying from the next room. And they record you, and they have a paper. And I sat down with this lady, and it's so uncomfortable. It makes me so uncomfortable to talk about this story because I hadn't even had my first kiss. Don't get me wrong, I've talked to boys, but it was uncomfortable to sit here and tell this stranger and explain to her in detail, and she's telling me I have to be extremely detailed about what I say. Like, I need to use certain words that respond to certain parts on my body, and I'd have to draw things out on the paper, my story, and where he touched me, where it happened, how many times. Too many to count. Too many times to remember. Too many to count, and too many times to remember them all. It went on for 3 years. I did not have to go into the court before a judge and plead my case, tell my story. That's why they record it when you're in the room with the lady, so kids don't have to do that. But when they went to court, he didn't even try to deny it. He pleaded guilty to everything. All of it. He got 12 years in prison. Obviously has to be on the sex offenders registry and has to wear an ankle monitor. He will be getting out next year. My life was ruined. Whatever relationship I had with my mom, destroyed. The relationship between me and my mom now, I don't think that I will fully be able to ever forgive her. And what makes it worse is the part where she asked me 2 times, because I feel like what she says is a lie. I don't know if it's true or not. She says it is, and that's why she asked me. But in my head, when I was that age, all I could think was, you know, and you're not doing anything about it. So our relationship will probably always have tension in it, because I blame her for what happened to me. I blame her for not having enough care to bring a man into your home that you just met. And this is why it is so important that before you bring someone into your home with your children, you know exactly who they are. 3 years this went on and nobody knew. For 3 years of my life. It has affected me in ways that I would never think it would have affected me. It affects me in every relationship I've ever had. I feel like things are hard for me in relationships because I'm healing, and I realize that these things have happened to me and I've grown, and I'm trying to do right by my relationships, because the people that I date did not do this to me. That man did this to me, not them. But I seem to take it out on people when I'm in a relationship with them in different ways. Trust, insecurities, even my own insecurities about who I am and my self-worth and my self-esteem. All of that has been affected by what he did to me. And over time, I've learned that about myself, and I've grown, and I will make another video about how I've been able to take what's happened to me and not let it affect me in life anymore. Because I refuse to let this man affect me anymore. I refuse to let him control my life and who I am. I refuse to let this affect me anymore. Thank you guys so much for hearing my story. It means a lot that I'm able to share it with you guys. And even if this helps one girl, that's enough for me. It will be enough for me. And if this has ever happened to you, reach out. Reach out. If it's something you're going through and you're scared, reach out. You can get help. You are not stuck. Do not be afraid. Do not be scared. And keep your courage. Keep your courage. Have hope. Have hope. Because that's something I didn't have. And I wish I would have. So keep your grace about you. Have hope. And keep on keeping on. Love you guys. Thank you so much for watching this. Like I said, if you need anything, I'm here.